Assalamu alaikum everyone. I would request the panelists and Sajid Aslam, the moderator, to please join us on stage. Yes. Okay. I would request the panelists, once again, I would request the panelists to please join us on stage. Great, we can now begin. Assalamu alaikum everyone. To begin our proceedings in the right spirit, we will begin with recitation from the Holy Quran.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahus samad. لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you. And now I'll request you all to please rise for the national anthem. Thank you. The national anthem definitely energizes us. To begin our proceedings, a very, very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the Marketing Association of Pakistan. Today is not just an event, it is a milestone. We are here for Future Lens, shaping tomorrow's conversation, the symphonies of ecosystems. And I thank you all for being here to share this celebration with us. Before I set the stage, it is important that we acknowledge the leadership behind this revival. A very special mention goes to Muhammad Asfar Ehsan, the President for Marketing Association of Pakistan, one of the many hats that he wears, whose vision and determination ensured that MAP is not just revived, but reimagined. While he continues to balance many other national and professional priorities, his commitment has truly been the driving force. Equally important is our newly formed council. I am a member of that too. A group of highly accomplished professionals who bring with them a wide range of experiences, viewpoints, and expertise from across Pakistan's marketing industry. Together, they don't just represent diversity, they represent possibility. Their collective strength will enrich MAP and uplift its roles in the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here today, allow me to set the context. Today marks a special moment, not just another event, it's a revival, it's a reawakening, and a powerful new beginning for MAP, an association that carries a legacy and is now stepping forward with renewed energy, purpose, and vision. This revival is not just about breathing life back into an organization. It is about reimagining marketing itself in Pakistan's context. Why? Because the world of marketing has changed beyond recognition. It is no longer about campaigns or slogans. It is about ecosystems, authenticity, and purpose. Today, personalization through AI, sustainability-driven branding, transparency, and inclusion are no longer buzzwords. They are strategic imperatives. They define how brands survive, thrive, and how they matter. And so, as we revamp our identity, we begin with a brand new chapter at MAP. Our purpose is crystal clear: to champion the voice of marketeers in Pakistan, to foster collaboration, innovation, and professionalism, to nurture the next generation of marketing leaders. That's where we will need all your expertise and contributions. And to ensure that marketing is recognized as a force for business growth and positive societal change. In Pakistan, marketing has always had the power to shape not just markets, but mindsets. But today we need to go further than this. We must connect, inspire, and make marketing truly matter. At this point, I would like to invite Asfar Ehsan to please come to the podium and share his views and thoughts with us.
Thank you, Raida. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, I am grateful to all of you for your presence here at the first meeting of current year of Marketing Association of Pakistan. And today we started the series of Future Lens. This is all about the conversations on different national issues as well as issues related to marketing, advertising, branding, and so other topics. We revived Marketing Association of Pakistan a few months ago. And recently, we also changed our logo and overall mission, vision, and Raida will elaborate it further. But I want to share that in this year, we engage 5 outstanding women leaders as our council member. And this is the first time we engage 5 women leaders. I will request all of them to please join us at the stage. Sadia, Iram, Raida, Shazan also please come. Saira is also the member, please come forward. Amna Khatib Paracha. Some of our members are traveling. Mujib, aap upar aa jaye please yahan pe. No, Shazeb is actually the rock star. So our other members are Umar Ehsan Khan of Dollans, Talib Kareem of Institute of Business Management, Ali Akai of Martin Dow Group, Mr. Jahangir of Dalda Foods, and Imran Halim Sheikh of Bank Islami. So this is our council, and my wish is that next year, after this tenure, one woman president will take over, because in the history of MAP, there was no woman president at the Marketing Association of Pakistan, whether you are talking about the Karachi chapter or the Lahore chapter. So thank you everyone for your contribution. So our plan is to host different conversations, different dialogues. Also, we are hosting several dinners as well as industry visits. Also, some webinars with the international and global experts on advertising, marketing, and on monthly basis we will host these webinars. So MAP will be very active, and the chairperson for program committee is Raida Latif. She is responsible for all these activities, and we will inform all of you. Those who are not member, I will request all of you to please join the member as a member. This is not restricted to marketing, but this is all professionals forum actually, and this is a good networking forum for all the practitioners and students as well. So without any further delay, I will request Raida again to please conduct the further proceedings. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Asfar. Before I jump on to the main piece of the event today, the panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take a moment to truly symbolize the rebirth of MAP. So brace yourselves, because we're about to reveal the new MAP identity. This is not just a logo, it is a statement that MAP is alive, relevant, and ready to lead in an era of personalization, digital transformation, sustainability, and inclusivity. It's a visual identity that reflects our values, innovation, because marketing is evolving faster than ever, collaboration, because our strength lies in our ecosystems, not silos, integrity, because trust is the bedrock of all lasting brands, and above all, purpose. So let us together witness this bold step forward. MAP is not only renewing its spirit, it is stepping out with a new image, a new face, and a new commitment to shape tomorrow's conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, with pride and great excitement, here is the new logo of the Marketing Association of Pakistan.
As our brand has evolved, so has the world around us. It has become faster, more connected, and more discerning than ever before. Our old logo carries the weight of our journey, but it no longer reflects who we are today or where we are headed. Our refreshed logo is a bridge between heritage and progress. It retains the familiar elements that honor our legacy while introducing cleaner lines, modern typography, and vibrant energy. It reflects our renewed purpose, our agility, and our future-forward vision. This is not just a change in how we look. It's a reaffirmation of what we stand for: clarity, connection, and continuous growth.
I hope you like this logo and this refreshed identity, and you are able to relate to this. With that spirit, it gives me great pride to introduce the centerpiece of today's program, our panel discussion. We'll call it the Titans Conversation, because today we bring together leaders of the leaders. In today's world, the role of a CEO is no longer confined to boardrooms. CEOs are the ultimate brand custodians and ambassadors. They set the vision, they embody the values, and they ensure that every single layer of the organization, from the executive suite to the trenches, carries that vision forward. This discussion will explore how leadership, branding, and marketing intersect, and how today's leaders are shaping tomorrow's conversations, ecosystems with innovation, inclusion, and sustainability. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation that will set the tone for marketing in Pakistan's next decade. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Mr. Sajid Aslam. Sajid, over to you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Sajid, and I think you have seen me here several times, but I think this is one of a specific event where I ask us for, I want to be part of it. So I really loved that when it started with the future lens and the symphony of the ecosystem side. This is something which is very close to our heart, as well as it's important for Pakistan as a country and the businesses as an organization to start disrupting our current thought process, which is very, very linear. And the difference which we will try to highlight today in the conversation, that it's not a one-way relationship. Every soul we are going to touch in our processes, we are going to retouch them. So if they are not happy, when we will go back to them, there will be a certain reaction. The resources which we are going to use today, we might need it again and again. So if we are wasting that, we might not be able to run our businesses properly. So circularity is important. So the key difference between the linear and the ecosystem is to creating that collaboration and circularity which reduces the waste and create that interdependencies where everybody has to really look after each other, not as a human being, but also the resources and the natural capital which is given to us by the nature as well. So today, while we are going through that, I'll open the conversation with Atif Bajwa, the president and CEO of Bank Al-Falah, a very, very progressive bank, and I have a pleasure to work with him in past as well in the telco side. And I think one area which we will try to explore here from a banking, significantly, there's a lot of digital banks coming up. There's a branchless banking we have experimented as well. There's a microfinance banks are there as well. And there's a regular, traditional, conventional banks who are evolving in a very different way. So how you see the role of the banks like the Bank Al-Falah fitting in the entire ecosystem or enabling that ecosystem? So how you see the future of Bank Al-Falah and the likes of Bank Al-Falah for that matter in this connected and data-driven world where a lot of other digital players are present as well?
Thank you, Sajid. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate that you requested me to come and make some statements on banking. You're absolutely right that banking is evolving, as are most things. But I think this is a recognition that I think you're pointing towards, which is absolutely right, that banking is no longer something that you go to. Banking is increasingly becoming something that you do wherever you are. And I think that transformation is what is at the heart of what the banking sector is trying to do, using technology, using data science, using AI. But this transformation is obviously not uniform. And it depends on where you are, who you are, what your background is. So the urbane and financially savvy people will understand this transformation better, perhaps, and adopt it quicker. But large parts of our society don't necessarily move in that direction quickly. But it is, of course, our responsibility in the banking sector and the financial services sector at large to try to accelerate that process of change and create the products and services that people really desire, even if they don't necessarily know that today, but that is the direction in which things are going. So, just as an example, so you asked at Bank Al-Falah what we are doing. We have gradually transformed the transactional ease so that 94% of our transactions are now done through digital means, which should mean that the branch is becoming less and less important. 70% of that is now done through the app. 40% of our new customers, whether for accounts or for loans or for other products, are acquired through digital means. Now, this is a transformation over the last few years that we've seen, and there's still more room to go, obviously. But in the larger context of the overall population, it's still small. So there's a lot more to do for banks to create that environment in which banks can begin to adopt. There's also an effort to have people change their behaviors. And that one doesn't come easily. There has to be an inflection point. I think banks still believe that opening more branches is the means to growth. We haven't reached that inflection point yet where we say no more branches are required, enough of that, enough physical presence across the country, and let's just get people digitally onboarded. When that will come, I don't know, but for the time being, I think we're still going to see more branches open. But the big thing, the big challenge, and the big animal that we have to beat in this is cash. Unfortunately, cash is so predominantly used across our economy and so embedded in everything that we do, and sometimes legally, sometimes not so legally, that cash is difficult to remove from our day-to-day life. But I think that there is now a much greater seriousness at not just banking level, but at a national level. So for the first time, the government, led by the Prime Minister, has formed a committee called the Cashless Economy Committee, in which a national digital infrastructure has been created, has been drafted, and I think that's a good beginning to start to see the transformation of the entire economy towards a cashless economy. Once you have that being developed, I think you will see that the transformation of behaviors will take place very fast. And that's where we'll obviously be able to play a role as banks. So for instance, when we talk about cashless, how do you become cashless if the merchants that you're going to purchase something doesn't have the capability to accept a digital payment? So we have about 5 million merchants across the country. Maybe 200,000 have that capability today, of some form. In a very rudimentary form, the QR code has been applied in perhaps, this is number thrown out by some people, about 900,000 have a QR code, but it's not active. The Prime Minister said you must have 2 million of these 5 million merchants. By June 26, they must be ready to accept digital payments. So, okay, that's a very tall task, but I think everybody will now step forward and try to do that. 15 billion transactions must move to digital transactions in this period of time. Now, these are, big, hairy, audacious goals, but I think you have to start with them so that you get at least some impact. And I think we will now begin to see that. And the question about what kind of services, I think the other thing that we have to recognize, and we're doing that, is that banking has to be embedded and intertwined with lifestyles. So it's no longer a separate thing that I go do banking. Banking is part of everything I do. I purchase something, there could be a banking transaction there. If I make a payment, that's a financial transaction. If I want to buy something against a loan, that should be done instantaneously through buy now, pay later schemes, but again, digitally. If I want to, do various other lifestyle transactions, I should be able to do it easily. So we have to embed digital banking in lifestyles. I think that's the direction in which everybody is going to go. And you may have seen our effort in that is that Zamzama branch that we have, which we call the lifestyle branch, where we have banking with cafe and with other facilities there as well. So that's the direction in which we're going. And in here, we will be using a lot of technologies, the new technologies that are coming in, and therefore partnerships with fintechs and technology providers are going to be absolutely essential. So I think larger banking, more traditional banking companies will have to move away from competition to collaboration with technology partners. And I think that's beginning to happen because banks certainly can't do everything. Nobody can do everything. And so you need these partners to enhance the spread of products and services for customers. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Atif. And I'm going to take a liberty to stand there so I can have a conversation straight. Thank you very much. I think one question which I'll come back at later to everybody, that there's a lot of people who are sitting there. There are multiple industries who are being represented here. So if you have to create an ecosystem, say next 5 years from now, so how do you see your role going forward in that? I'll come back later, as not right now, but later. So Atif, you raised a question like there's still, the branch is something which is a symbol of growth, and they still, from an access perspective, the banks will continue to do that. And we are seeing the similar infrastructure requirement coming in the warehousing as well, where the consumer behavior, and they're asking for a very quick deliveries, fast commerce and all that. And that's created very interesting dynamics where you have to create dark warehouses and multiple warehouses, and you have to create an infrastructure for the last mile specifically to fulfill that requirement. And there's a global challenge in terms of that consumer behavior where we have to make a lot of trips rather than consolidating the deliveries and going in a one area. So, sir, coming to your side, you are representing right now one of the largest logistic company in Pakistan. So if you look at your side, Sarawan, right? Yeah, so I was surprised that I'm looking at the wrong. So, sir, if you look at your side, then how you are handling that challenge and opportunity at the same time, where you need the infrastructure, you need that transportation, and where the consumer behavior which you are going to serve is not something which we really like to continue with, like the fast delivery, immediate gratification and immediate delivery side of it.
Thank you so much. So, in the logistics space, I want to address sort of 4 main themes here. One is the behavior that is being driven by the customer, by the changing market realities. And I'll talk about that first. So this is where what we are seeing increasingly, of course, this is driven by the boost in e-commerce, etc. But there is a greater demand for ease, convenience, transparency, flexibility, etc. And so this is driven both by the e-commerce merchants and also by the end last mile consumers, where real-time tracking is needed. On-demand delivery, customers should have the ability to change their delivery address, to change the time of delivery, etc. So there's a real customer demand because the digital economy really, one of the most important aspects of it is enhanced customer experience and the convenience that the customer is driving. So that is one aspect. And as a logistics company, as a courier, as a delivery last mile company, a lot of our effort is focused on providing this real-time visibility, transparency, and ease to our customers. And I will address the cashless point as well. I think that's quite important in our business. But the second aspect of this is that in the logistics industry, which is generally a very low margin business, dependent on scale, we're dealing in a very high cost environment, there is a great need to create, to have digital transformation and business process re-engineering internally in order to create those efficiencies to free up some capital for further investment. So we have a two-pronged effort. One is a customer-facing effort, and one is an internal business process re-engineering effort. We tackle both the B2C market, and I referred to e-commerce, which is growing roughly at about 20 to 25% year on year in Pakistan, but also in the B2B space, we've expanded our warehousing footprint, and we are increasingly seeing this need for advanced, sophisticated warehousing management systems, end-to-end inventory management, fulfillment services, etc. So these are some of the digital changes, the digitally enabled, technologically enabled, changes that we are working in order to offer a better product, a better service to our customers, both on the B2C and the B2B sides, as an integrated third-party logistics provider. And on the e-commerce side, TCS, logistics companies generally sit right in the middle of this ecosystem. So our role is very, very critical because, as you know, the three pillars of e-commerce are the marketplace, payments, and delivery. And so Mr. Bajwa referred to, he said, banking is not something that people do, it's not something that people come to, it's something that you do. And I would say that that is increasingly the case for using logistics companies, except there's an added aspect that it actually has to come to you. And so our ability to move things in as efficient, cost-efficient, but also time-effective manner is critical, and technology is going to be playing an increasingly important role as a differentiator as this space is getting more and more competitive. I also just want to refer to the cashless economy point because it's something which is very close to my heart. Because over 90% of e-commerce transactions in Pakistan are reliant on cash. We were just discussing the trust deficit issue. The end customer fundamentally is a little bit still not sure, whether the product that he ordered online is going to come to him in the same form in which he ordered it. And also for us as delivery companies, there's a big, obviously, responsibility and obligation on us to actually deliver it on time in order to minimize returns, etc. And so in order to build this trust, I think that the role of digital payments can really go a long way. At this point, people prefer to hold on to their cash, but on us, there is a huge administrative burden, which we obviously, it's actually a hidden cost for us, but it's a huge administrative burden in terms of collecting billions of rupees in cash from all across the country, reconciling it, and then passing that back through to e-commerce merchants. It stresses their working capital requirements. We are fully aware of that, but it also causes, ends up in a huge burden on logistics companies. So we are working very closely with the leading players in this space, Bank Al-Falah included. We're working with the government. We're working with digital financial services platforms such as JazzCash and EasyPesa in order to enable more digital payments at the doorstep, so that even if the customer is not willing to pay digitally at the time of placing the order, when we go to collect it, at least at that point, the payment should be digitized, and we feel that that will lead to a lot of efficiency. I think the government is really prioritizing this as it's one of the Prime Minister's most important initiatives. So as an ecosystem player and enabler, we are working very intentionally to make sure that this happens.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. I think you raised a couple of key areas where we talked about the data availability as well, and we talked about how we can really meet the customer expectation. And I think that's something which we are seeing again and again, meeting the customer expectation. And we are sitting on a marketing forum. My question is always that who is going to set the expectation that those expectations should be right? Why we should set the expectation that everything can happen instantly regardless of the cost, and then everybody start chasing that, and there's a competition to deliver things fast, timely, or maybe better than the expectation. where we can tell the customer it's going to take 45 minutes, consolidate something and bring it out. So I think this is a one conversation from a circular economy perspective, which is coming again and again. What does it mean? Why we want customer to own everything? Why can't we move to excess economy where they don't own it, they subscribe it and they use it commonly. If I don't need it, I pass it on to somebody else. And similarly, that can go for the even the electronic equipments as well, which we install, we don't buy, we install, we rent, and then we move on with that, and that goes out, and somebody else uses that. So I think that question will keep coming back, meeting the expectation and setting the expectation side of it, and particularly the marketing professional, I'm sure आप लोगों के पास ये narrative जो है ये अब काफ़ी ज़्यादा आएगा. If we are talking about the symphony of ecosystem, so ecosystem is all about synchronizing that expectation and working like an assembly line, and the things should be delivered and done in a way the next piece should be picking it up in a right way. And that brings back me to Mujib, and this entire ecosystem now we are talking about is all based on data. Everybody needs to feed each other with the right, high integrity, authenticated, verified information which they can based on their, which they can use to make their decisions. And at the same time, the governments are taking initiative to make data as an open access. And there are people who have got the certain access to the data and they are creating insight. So we see a certain challenge where the data should be open or data should have a proprietary rights, it should be sold or it should be accessed. So what could be the model when we are talking about the ecosystem specifically, how the partners should be working with each other to really leverage that information?
Thank you more times than...
It's good. It should go.
Yay, we got it right. I'm not saying it again now. I think great question on data availability. This is a topic, especially in a world where regulation, compliance, government policy is taking wild swings around the globe in different regions. And the requirement for data, whether it is in the public sector or in the private sector, and the need for governance around it is also increasing, and as well as regulation. It is important to find the right balance when, as an organization, especially if I take S&P Global's example, we are in the business of selling our data. That formulates the core of who we are as a business. And this industry, the information services industry, is close to a $90 to $100 billion industry. I think two key factors that I will try to refer to and try to keep my answer brief in the interest of time. Number one, with technology progressing as quickly as it has over the last, I would say, 5 years specifically, access to information for individuals has increased rapidly. So traditionally, data that was not accessible to individuals and they had to go to a vendor like us or somebody else to procure that data is now available. Everybody sitting in this room can access it through their phones, through an LLM, and they will be able to serve most of their use cases through that. So organizations will have to continue to build on their proprietary data that they have if they want to extract the value from their clients. A lot of information is still out there, but the other advantage of technology is that organizations can dig deeper to find differentiated data that they can serve to clients. That's something that we have experienced at S&P Global. For everybody here, I invite you to check out this tool that we have. It is called Marketplace, spglobal.marketplace.com. And this is a platform where we have opened up some of our data sets, and we invite our customers as well as other collaborators to put their data in that platform as well and see if they can come up with new products or new use cases. This is a model that is being used by financial institutions as well, where access to data is opened up because that leads to further opportunities that you can then monetize as an organization. So summarizing, it's a slightly complicated concept, but summarizing, if somebody feels, and data is being generated in all types of businesses, whether it's obviously banking, whether it is logistics, and that will have value. Businesses need to find ways through which they can provide access to data to companies. Both Saira and Atif spoke about technology collaborators in their respective businesses. Technology collaborators will only be able to build products if they have access to that data. We've seen examples around the world where entire industries have been disrupted when technology companies have collaborated with, let's say, a logistics partner or a financial institution or a pharmaceutical entity. So organizations, I think, have to think about their core business, but also this plethora of data that is being generated and how it can be used for as an advantage to their business by opening it up for other people to use, because it is, at the end of the day, it is for their benefit. Thank you, Sujit.
Thank you, Mujib. And I think it's a complicated thing. Who owns what is becoming a very, very difficult piece, specifically once we are talking about data and you need AI to be trained on the data. Who owns that data which is used to train AI? So I think there are a lot of questions which we need to address while we are moving ahead. And there's one question coming up again and again, and Amir, that comes to your side, being one of a leading FMCG in the world, not only in Pakistan. The consumerism, going forward, how you see people consuming stuff where in our traditional market, the success of the organization is measured based on the top line and not around that how their product is being reused, repurposed, and recycled. And then in that particular model, particularly if we continue with that consumerism and in a linear way, that means we will be generating a lot of waste and we will be consuming a lot of resources, and it will not be doing good to community, society, or human being in general. And that's something, once we talk to somebody like Unilever, we see a certain level of conflict. The one who would like to grow their market share and sell their products. And when we're talking about the circularity, which means, or reduction in consumption, we are talking about it has to be dealt very differently. So being a leader in that, and the way you people are doing work in the sustainability, circularity, the packaging material, and the way you are working on a waste reduction, how you see Unilever in the next 4 or 5 years, where we really manage to reduce or create a narrative to reduce the consumerism and reduce the consumption levels?
Well, that's quite an interesting question because the industry is going through a paradox. Everyone wants to be sustainable, but everyone wants to be profitable as well. And there's a cost of sustainability. And many organizations sitting here actually belong to B Corp certified organization, which means they are meant to basically produce commercial returns. And all those organizations which are listed, the shareholders put money in your organizations because they want competitive returns. And if you don't produce competitive returns, they pull the money out of your organization and they put the money which actually give them the competitive returns. So it all boils down to that you need to basically balance between morality and commercial viability. And I think so that's what our experiences have been. The consumer landscape is changing a lot, and there's been a tectonic shift. Two key things have happened. Number one is consumers are demanding hyper-personalization. That's number one. And data and this AI is helping to hyper-personalize. The second is consumers are now more conscious how much they need, how much they consume, and what they consume. And today, it's no more a one-sided affair. When I was a brand manager, we used to basically create, we were told to create a magic of marketing, create a fancy ad, and blast it on TV, and show consumers so many times that they fed up aake aapka product khareed le. Unfortunately, that era is over. And now the new era is that it's less about what you say, it's more about what others say. And that's where the entire era of this social media marketing have actually come into place. So it's now the age of macro influencers, micro influencers, nano influencers, who you find on TikTok and Twitter, on Facebook. Actually, you go and ask them that, should I use this product or not? And then you decide whether I'm going to be using a product or not. And Booking.com, you know, whether the hotel actually gives them a 5-star rating or 4-star rating, it all boils down to what exactly is the comments the guests are actually giving. So we have come into a very different kind of era, and therefore when you talk about this access economy or this creating an ecosystem, it varies from a country to country. Our experience in Pakistan has not been very encouraging. We did actually try putting up refill stations within different big stores. So we actually save from, you know, selling more plastic. But unfortunately, consumer psyche in Pakistan is that they want to basically buy a new product. They don't want to buy recycled bottles. They don't want to use refills. They don't want to actually use refill stations. And that's where I'm saying the paradox is there, where consumers are saying, I am very conscious, you know, I want to be climate responsible. But on the other side, when you give consumers the choice to actually pick between the recycled product or refill packs or refill stations, they choose not. So I think so there is a tension going between the two. There's a tension between what you say and there's a tension between what you do. And therefore, that's where the difference is. That's one tension. The other tension is that sustainability costs you money. For example, a recycled resin in a bottle costs you more than the virgin resin. And today the ecosystem is not developed enough that give you a recycled resin actually at parity, let alone at a lower cost. And therefore, when you actually put up a recycled resin in a bottle, today our Sunsilk bottle carries 25% of our recycled resin in our bottle, it costs you. So you have to basically carry out activity which makes it commercially viable. The company won't allow you, or the shareholder won't allow you to take your margins down, and the consumers won't basically allow you to charge extra price because you are producing sustainably. So you have to make a commercial case before you get to morality. Now, many organizations are also basically getting into woke culture, which is greenwashing, where they show something, and actually the reality is something else. And we have seen many such stories. So I think so the world is going through a certain wave, and I think so it's important that we strike a balance. We have seen in the recent past where everyone is talking about diversity, everyone is talking about sustainability, renewable energy, recycled plastic. But then we have seen what happened, that bubble burst because it didn't make any commercial case. And then all of a sudden, Trump came in and he said, listen, I don't believe in climate, I don't believe in diversity, I don't believe in inclusivity. And have you seen world leaders tilting towards it? And now HBRs are actually publishing articles, how you can be sustainable without running sustainable programs, how you basically build diversity in a company without running diversity programs. And that's a reality. So I think for all the organizations, commercial organization, you really need to basically work out commercial cases in order to make sustainability a way of doing business, and that's what we have been trying to do.
No, thank you, Amir. I think it's such an interesting time and dilemmas where we are living right now. People want something, but when they get the choice, they don't opt for that. And again, you picked up a very interesting thing. Unless there is an ecosystem, it will not work because of one organization or one particular industry. If they try to do the recycling or they want to really extract the material from the waste and reuse that one, it's not going to work unless until there is a right kind of volume and there is an ecosystem to collect it back in an efficient way. Right? So there's a lot of stuff which is happening, and everything, when you pick it up, it goes back, it's an ecosystem problem. It's not a one person who can solve that. And I mean, you raised a very interesting area in the beginning that we're a commercial organization, right? So in a commercial organization, the return on the investment, the shareholder returns, and the profitability, that's something which comes so far, it comes first, and these are the key measure of success. But at the same time, we have got two organizations sitting on our panel who have got a very interesting challenge. They have to generate that risk-adjusted return, and at the same time, it has to have a sustainable project. So, Maheen, starting from your side first, infrastructure is something which Pakistan needs and the US need, and right now, everybody is talking about a resilient infrastructure. And you are the one who have an ability to really enable a lot of organization and a public sector to do so. And while you are sitting on that agenda, the access to capital and the cost of capital versus the returns you are looking forward to or acceptable for the investor with the impact and the sustainability, how you are trying to really solve that puzzle here.
Thank you. And I think great question. And I'm very glad you asked me after Amir. So we talk about Pakistan and you talk about the main infrastructure building blocks. And what do we mean? Infrastructure is such a broad term, but fundamentally what do we mean? We mean energy, we mean logistics, transport, we mean financial services, we mean data platforms, we need IT, we need agriculture, we need water management systems. Those are the building blocks of agri spaces as well as broad infra spaces. And a lot of those are represented on this panel, which is phenomenal. But there's a big elephant in the room when it comes to talking about sustainability. And we heard Amir talk about it's expensive. It's also the cost of inaction that actually we are not considering. And the big elephant in the room is this, that while other countries can talk about the fact that we don't want to discuss these things and they're parked on the side and this is not part of the agenda, the climate elephant is actually stamping all over our infrastructure in Pakistan today. So we ignore at our own peril, and we are not factoring that cost of inaction into any of our actions. So when we make commercial decisions, and Amir is absolutely right that commercial decisions really drive development of new products, they drive development of new plants, of new projects. But what happens when a flood comes and all of that is rendered inoperable or damaged? We are not considering that cost in our actual evaluation. So what happens, right? You look at Pakistan, and this is a very interesting link back to the consumer here, actually. You look at Pakistan, we've had a flood here in Pakistan every year for the last 10 years. And occasionally, every 3-4 years, we have a big one and we talk about it on the news. We know how much damage that's been done. We know it's going to happen again, but yet it doesn't filter into our sense of calculations. So I think before we go down the path of addressing sustainability, let's look at the cost of not putting in action towards climate adaptation, not mitigation, adaptation. So how do we adapt our infrastructure so that our roads are not swept away, so that our factories are not inoperable, so that our logistics system continues to work, our transmission and distribution lines don't go down, our data and telecom doesn't stop working, because all of that is impacted by the climate elephant that we're seeing in Pakistan's economy today. So I would say it doesn't matter what Trump says, it matters what we're seeing on the ground. So how do we try and address that? And this is interesting that it's not part of the boardroom discussion as yet, but the sustainability standards of reporting are about to come to Pakistan in the next 2 years. And I tell you, we're not ready for that type of disclosure or that type of assessment. And something we've tried to do at Infrazamin is bring that discussion front and center to project development. Because at the end of the day, there's no point in putting up ground-mounted solar if the floods are going to come and damage your solar panels. There's no point in putting up agricultural structures where the floods will destroy the crops anyway. And I think the way we draw our inspiration, and one sort of image that stands out to me over the last 3 weeks that I've seen is a picture of the Wagah border, where on the Indian side, there were the guards, maybe 100 meters apart, no water, and on the Pakistan side, just water everywhere. So, you know, that's simply because India actually invested in flood protection systems. And most countries in the world, and we've had a flood in pretty much every major continent in the last month or so, but the reality is the water goes away quickly, the drainage is effective, but we have not yet gone down that route. So when you look at a project at Infrazamin, we have now started assessing the impact of climate risk within the risk assessment. Because if we don't, and we're a guarantor and we issue guarantees to companies, if there is a climate event and that particular a company is unable to pay because of that climate event, then that makes us liable for that debt. So if we don't consider that, then we will not have completed our sort of due diligence in the right way. And I think you will see this now more and more. Part of it will be driven by the sustainability standards that are coming in. But the link back to the consumer is quite simple. My belief is sometimes a consumer doesn't know what they want. I didn't know I wanted a smartphone until they made one. So we can go by consumer wants, but also at the same time, consumer anger when systems fail because of climate events is very much directed at the companies and in the institutions that fail to provide those services. So we come back full circle and we say, okay, how do we mitigate as much climate risk as possible? And how can we build that into the financial forecast of the company? And then finally, the final forward linkage to the customer is, will this service stay uninterrupted to the customer, hence developing my goodwill and my brand value with that customer? So there is a very clear linkage here, and I think we ignore sustainability and we ignore climate and we ignore the impact it has on every aspect of infrastructure and every firm that operates here at our own peril. So more and more, our projects are not just looking at carbon mitigation, which is something all of us know very well. Everybody can put up solar panels, but also what our factories doing to stop water from coming around them, what are subnational, provincial, and federal governments doing to address water drainage and better water reservoir management. And these questions now being asked, we are very happy to say are actually now also being addressed and put into the projects that we're supporting.
No, thank you, Mahin. I think cost of inaction is always something which we have to put if we are doing action, and what does it cost. and interestingly, when we talk about the infrastructure, that's a wonderful piece which connect everything. So if we are talking about Unilever, if we are talking about the last mile, we are talking about the financial services, even if we are talking about data and data centers, infrastructure is essential for that. But one of the most vulnerable business where the infrastructure and a sustainable infrastructure is the most important is the agriculture. And Dr. Ayesha, where you are picking up the bets to bring the money to the one of a sector which is most vulnerable in general, where the major risk mitigation is the prayer right now in Pakistan. So you can pray that the things happen in a right way and the flood should not destroy those lands and the crops. So where your focus as well, looking forward in terms of inclusivity, in terms of bringing and building that particular sector and enable that small farmer specifically, and working with the large financial institution to bring that money. How you are balancing these two things, like Maheen picked up on that. So how you are balancing, because your core area is also the social impact and the risk assessment, and then definitely the cost of capital at the same time.
Thank you, and it's great going after Amir and Maheen, because my view is probably in between both of them. And so I'll step back a little bit. I think this whole category of impact investing, it's a really interesting word, because if you think of it, every single choice you make has an impact. Coming to this event has an impact. Having a glass of water has an impact. Whether you worked out today or didn't work out today, every single decision, stay in Pakistan, leave, which is also things people are tackling. So impact investing essentially is articulating the impact of investment decisions with clarity and quantifying it and saying, look, here is the impact of allocating money here versus here, of buying a packet of chips and eating it, or having vegetables and eating those, and let's quantify that. And by the way, this is very different from ESG. That's a separate category. So if you step and look at ESG, think of it more as an exclusionary principle. So ESG tells you what you cannot do. You cannot invest in certain sectors, you cannot do certain things because they're not okay, and it narrows your portfolio of choices. Impact investing is actually supporting and building. And it's saying, let's start investing in companies that are adding more positive to the world. It's something I remember my grandfather used to say to me, to all of us when we were little kids, that if at the end of your days you can give more to the world than you take, then I think you've led a good life. So essentially, impact investing is saying, here's what we're doing, here's the impact of those investment decisions. And as we look at how the industry has shaped up over the past few decades, it's now 25, 30 years old at least, and we've stepped back and we've looked at the realities of what Amir is saying in terms of commercial viability absolutely has to be there. If you cannot return money to your investors, you're not going to get more investors. And frankly, that investment class will start getting underinvested in. So I completely hear the sort of implicit value in terms of the impact per dollar, but it needs to be articulated in a way that actually gets money back. So one of the big trends we're seeing is this collinearity. We call it collinearity. It essentially means that as you're scaling up, your returns are correlated with impact. And I'll give you an example of this. I was just in Africa, so I guess all my examples will be from our portfolio in Africa, so excuse me for that. But we invested in a company called D-Light. And D-Light provides solar home systems, and really starting from just small solar lights to communities and households across Africa. And you'd say this is a product that has great impact. There are all sorts of issues, obviously, in how people who can't afford these light systems would pay for them. Fast forward 15 years, D-Light is one of the most successful companies in the region. It has impacted 200 million people across the continent. It's present in multiple markets. And it just recently raised about a capital pool of $1 billion, and they did it through securitizing small credit bundles that individual borrowers would be incurring in order to buy these lights. So there's financial innovation, and as D-Light grows, it is more and more financially sustainable and creates ways in which it can actually return capital to its investors. So that's a success story. And that's one big trend, that it has to be collinear. We have to see a combination of financial and impact returns. Separately, it's hard to scale up. The second big trend that we're seeing is around multiple pathways to impact. So really just saying any one investment can have multiple ways of affecting and impacting society, the planet, and here, the second African company that I saw while I was in Nairobi, we invested in, it's called Burn Cook Stoves. And this is the largest manufacturer of clean cook stoves, the largest vertically integrated manufacturer of clean cook stoves in the world at this point. And anyone who's looked at clean cook stoves figures out that these are really expensive and the people you're selling them to can't afford it. Well, here's what Burn did. It not only localized production in Africa, but it also embedded each cook stove with IoT technology. So the cook stove now is measuring how much kerosene and dirty fuel it's replacing, and so essentially it becomes a distribution tool for carbon credits. And that ends up being the large revenue line. And so the multiple impact pathways are not just clean cooking and health outcomes, but creating employment through localizing production and being really smart about revenue streams and saying, this is how we can actually generate. And so the more cook stoves Burn sells, the more it earns through carbon credits and the cleaner Africa gets in terms of fuel usage. So we're seeing all of these trends, and that also reflects in what we're doing in Pakistan within the agri fund that we are designing and building out. It is absolutely critical that each of the investments we make is not only going to have a real impact on the rural economy and support the lives of farmers and make them more resilient, but at its core, these investments have to scale and they have to generate returns, because without that, capital will remain scarce. Pakistan will remain a difficult destination for anyone to come in, and we will not be able to build where it's most needed. So again, all of you understand, no one would argue that we need to have more companies that are doing good. I think the issue becomes, how do we pay for it? How much of a discount are we willing to take on the returns? How are you actually going to scale them up? And we're seeing all of that. And again, the final third trend, sorry, ex-consultant, have to speak in threes. The third trend that we're seeing is really as the world is getting more and more local, and you're all seeing it, everyone's narrowing in and saying, let's just focus on our own region, our own community, and forget everyone else. I think in our space, in the space of impact investing, the gains from going global and sharing knowledge and having distributed models across different regions could not be greater. So if you are sitting in platforms that actually are able to engage across multiple regions, and so many of my, again, co-panelists here are on those platforms, there is increasing power in those ecosystems, going back to the theme, to be able to start now generating positive cycles of investing and returns and impact. And it's really exciting to see as we start building that out.
Thank you, Dr. Asha. Thank you very much. I think we will go with one more question with the panelists, and then we will come to the questions from the audience. So be prepared for those questions as well, if you have one. And just after this round, we will be coming to the audience and just introduce yourself, your organization, and point out what is your question and who you want to ask for. But be very, very precise and concise. And we are looking for questions, comments we will be sharing maybe during the tea time or later at once we get into the networking later at some time. I think the biggest driver of the change within the businesses historically, we have seen the financial institution and the people with the capital or access to capital or the access to the distribution of the capital, they are the most powerful people that how the rest of the world and the organization or the societies should evolve. We have seen that in Europe, they brought the SFDR, they said that these are the green labels and the different kind of greenwashing conversation and the dark green and light green labeling on the investments. We also talked about the green bonds and the sustainability linked instruments, and that's been the organization who is accessing the finance or funding through that. They have to rely or really comply with the certain terms and conditions. So, Mahin, I'll start with you again. How you see your role as a financial institution, as an enabler and the capital provider or distributor of that capital to drive that ecosystem within the context of Pakistan. I'll not take the global right now. Let's look at the context of Pakistan, how you can really drive that ecosystem, which is in the right direction as per your investment thesis or your philosophies.
Sure. So I think if we can summarize what we try and do is we try and create a path to show how something can be done. It doesn't mean we have to do everything down that corridor, but we take that first step and then we show the market how it's done. So if I give you an example, we've always looked at projects from a climate lens, a gender lens, an overall sort of SDG or Sustainable Development Goal lens, which is, are we working towards creating jobs? Are we creating food security? Are we lifting people out of poverty? Are we helping the people and planet? And that's the lens we look at most projects in. Now, a lot of the time, that risk assessment is not familiar to the market. It's not that it can't be done, it's just not familiar. But when we open the door to that, it gives a template or a blueprint for how that can be done, and that can be taken up by the market at a later stage. So if I take the example, very well-known example of how we worked on the gender bond about 2 years ago. Now, we may argue that that was one instance or one instrument, but let's see what's happened in the last 2 years with regards to gender finance in Pakistan. So we did that initial bond, that was about a $12 million sort of guarantee we gave, and opened the door to creating gender-linked financing. Subsequent to that, the British BII, so British Investment Company as well, invested a further $7 million into that institution. That institution then went on to do a $5 million gender-linked bond internationally, which was then fully subscribed. And most recently, we had PMIC do a full gender-linked local financing leg to the microfinance industry. So we never had this kind of gender-linked financing in Pakistan before, but the idea was open a door, show how it's done, and let the rest of the market follow through. And similarly, when we look at climate and we look at renewable energy, for example, the first few distributed solar transactions where you have solar, rooftop solar on commercial institutions or on housing, etc. The first sort of guarantee transaction was actually done by Garanco, which is one of our sister companies. And since then, subsequently, and that was done, the first transaction was about 4 years ago. But if you see the market now on solar financing and how it's progressed, it is now a no-brainer to get into the solar space because it makes commercial sense, but that was first demonstrated through the guarantee product. So this is how you open the doors and create the pathways and show how a particular type of risk assessment can work well at scale. So that's what we try and do, is open that door and then allow other financial institutions and enable them through capacity building and sometimes even with regulators to show how those can be made sustainable to scale. And that's effectively how we're working through this.
Thank you, Mahin. Thank you very much. And Mujib, I'll come to you on that. You are sitting on a very strong brand, I think one of our employer of choice for youth as well, and you spend a lot in terms of training and capacity building side. How the organization like S&P Global influence the education ecosystem, what we have today? So precise. I know you have got a lot to say, but
Yeah.
just try to be within 2 to 3 minutes here.
Great question. So as one of the largest employers of technology talent, specifically in Pakistan, as well as talent in spaces that generally are difficult to find. For example, we have a team that collects ESG data globally for one of our divisions, S1. Now you go to a university in Pakistan, I actually did this, I won't name the university, I asked them to tell me what ESG was. People struggled. These are graduate students at a pretty nice university. And so awareness of some of these, another area that we hire extensively in is quant specialists. Now, a very specific area within investment banking, difficult to find talent in Pakistan. But let's keep those aside. I'll just stick with technology talent. Several organizations, our industry bodies, I see Jahan is sitting here, Pasha has been trying to crack that nut for quite some time. The government has run programs. Two things that we've found to be super helpful and impactful, and we've used them to solve that problem for us. Number one, a boot camp idea where we partner with universities to run a boot camp either on their premises or ours, where we bring in talent. It's a combination of where they're working and getting trained in specific skill sets that we need, because we're not finding those skill sets being taught in universities. So that helps us solve the shorter term and medium term problem. Longer term, just yesterday, we had an engagement with HEC to see how we can influence curriculum. Unfortunately, our process to make changes in what we educate our kids is so long and tedious that the world is just operating at a very different pace. New tools and technologies are coming in on a monthly, if not sooner, basis. And we look at curriculum once a year. And we are still not teaching fundamental skill sets in top-tier universities. I'm talking about top-tier universities. I won't even get into tier 2, tier 3. So I think it is incumbent upon organizations. In our experience, what we found is when we run these programs across various segments, across not even tier 1 cities, but even tier 2 and tier 3 cities, we're able to find talent that is eager to learn and is able to pass through these boot camps and such programs, and is able to, in our case, we don't serve local clients. Our use cases are all global. This talent is able to go and solve problems globally.
Yep.
So that would be, in the interest of time, will restrict myself.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'll bring Atif here as a wonderful bank which started with a very different infrastructure and the vision when they launched in Pakistan, and we still believe there is a lot where Al-Falah will keep taking that lead in a different areas. So Atif, if we look at Bank Al-Falah, how you see having your performance metrics in 5 years from now? So today we look at the top line, today we look at the size of the loans and the size of the book. So if we look at the change which we are seeing, and then the ecosystem which is evolving, where some of the revenue may be sharing with the logistic company and the e-com company, and they are sharing back with the banks and the financial institutions. So how you see that metrics evolving in 5 years from now? What you will be measuring more?
I think if you look at the core metrics that companies have looked at for the longest period of time, it has to do with balance sheet, it has to do with P&L, it has to do with share price performance, etc. Because that, at the end of the day, is what the investor is looking at. But these are consequences, these are results of actions and activities that you undertake. And that is changing. So while the metrics on an overall basis may stay the same, but since the core activities of institutions are beginning to change, I think we start watching different actions and the results of those activities. So if we're talking about how we're trying to redefine banking in a digital sense, then we have to see, okay, what kind of uptake do we have on digital products and platforms? What is the behavior of customers? What penetration we get there on each products? What kind of behaviors can we see through the data that we capture? And how we can develop more products and new product development is essential. So a whole range of analytics that are already coming in and will continue to evolve as we bring in more products and services will be important to see. And we've always, looked at these activities previously as well, but they were more generic. They were perhaps more traditional, and now because we have the data, because we have the analytical capabilities developing better, we look at far more things and in depth, and I think that will continue to evolve. But at the going beyond financial performance driven by these activities, I think the other thing that has been touched upon is impact. So institutions that are serious about their responsibility to an economy and responsibility to a country will start looking at other things. What impact are they having on the country, the economy, the communities? And that's what we have started to watch and look at. But it comes from a core desire of the board and the shareholders to start being seen as a responsible corporate citizen and not just as a profitable corporate entity. And I think that's something that comes from the core ethos, the core vision and values. And to monitor the delivery against those values is something that we're beginning to watch and measure.
Now, thank you, Atif. I think I love that one. Even the core metrics, if it remain the same, the drivers which are driving it might change. So that's something which still some change and disruption we are seeing there. And the one thing which I disagree is that the board and the share, I think the CEOs like what we are seeing, the panel and the power sitting here, they always have an influence on the board and the shareholder and based on how the strategy should be evolved and how to sell that one. So definitely board has ultimate responsibility, but as a CEO, as a directors, we all have got that responsibility. I'm not putting a fight between. So thank you very much, Atif, for that. So I'm coming to you again. We are looking at a lot of competition and the collaboration, and the entire industry and the organization like Unilever has got a big influence in terms of their value chain, starting from the agriculture, from the raw material, how the transportation should be done, what the packaging standard should be, how the reuse, how to even drive the consumer behavior side of it. But you can't do everything by yourself, so you need those partners and the system and the value chain which drive in a same value systems. How you see Unilever working with the logistics company and the financial institutions, where you see Unilever, likes of Unilever can really influence that behavior of consumer as well as the partners which they are working with. And what are the one or two things you would like to see a change in the next 3 to 5 years if you look at that?
So I'll start with one example. And I think so this very much integral part of our business, and also it's very much integral to the cashless economy which we are talking about, and that is the Kiryana stores. Yeah, there are around more than 1 million Kiryana stores. And one thing which the government has been trying is to actually make them into a part of the documented economy, and also to provide them access to financials because they don't have the access. So we have now, so earlier we used to have our salesmen going to the Kiryana shop, taking the order from them. And if the salesman doesn't go to the Kiryana shop can't place an order. Now there is a complete digitally enabled app which a Kiryana guy has, and shopkeeper can place the order any time of the day. So this way we have a complete financial credentials of that shopkeeper. Now what we are doing is that we are putting up says Rast button on this, so he can actually make payment cashless through that app to the merchant, yeah, which has been the big pain point that we have not been able to really trigger a lot of people to merchant accounts. And this way, then we can start getting microfinancers and a lot of digital banks and insurance companies on that. And then retailer can actually then get access to those microfinance for the education of his kid, or wherever there's a liquidity crisis, he wants a microfinance, he can get a finance against any collateral, but rather against his digital credentials. Yeah. And that's the ecosystem you actually try to create. And this relationship is beyond transactional. It's more a transformational relationship, which is helping improve the overall living standard of that small Kiryana owner, because you have given him access to funds, which in the past he wasn't able to get because he has to basically get collateral to get funds. Now, everyone can get to his doorstep and can offer any kind of a microloan or insurance health or any kind of education support system, because now we have the entire digital credential of that shopkeeper. And that's what you're talking about, creating an ecosystem that you can actually then start making an impact on the larger economy. And the second quick one is that we have collaborated with your organization, which is Seed Ventures, is Second Life Project, which is giving a second life to waste. And I'm proud to say that today, 100% of our packaging material is recyclable. And we have started this Second Life project with entrepreneurs, startups, and research students, that how you give second life to the waste. And I think so, again, this is all about moving beyond transaction to creating a transformational relationship.
No, I mean, I think that's great. Creating a digital twin and bringing every party on the same ecosystem so they can support. I think that's one thing which we can really demonstrate and leverage going forward in the next 3 to 5 years. It will change everything a lot. So coming to you, Sarah, I think there's again, you are working with a lot of people who are you want a mic? Is it working? So I think over the period, there are a lot of roles which are being placed on a logistic company, and it was from a very regular traditional logistic company picking up a stuff and delivering somewhere. It has changed where you partner with even the manufacturers and the producers, and then you take it forward and you do a part of the bank as well. You collect money, you bring it back, you look at the insurance while the person is moving around. And then the transportation itself, whether it's a bigger one or a small one. So then the warehousing become another major area within that logistic piece. How you see, like Amir also mentioned that bringing all the people there, and there's always a one limitation whether Nestle would be on the same ecosystem or not. Or Nestle will be doing the same ecosystem and there will be again a waste and a duplication. So are we talking about a super app or we are talking about a closed loop mechanism? So being a logistic partner, how you see what you want to see in the next 3 to 5 years, a change which can drive an ecosystem, and you can define that this is my role and you can take a pride, this is how I have driven it.
Thank you, Sajid. I will just talk about sort of the two things that were mentioned here, the cost of action and the cost of inaction. if I may answer your question through these two lenses. And first of all, when we look at sustainability, for example, as a logistics company, my objectives are, first of all, to reduce the cost per delivery and to reduce the CO2 emissions per package. And when I look at the cost of sustainability, Amit is absolutely right to say that it's still in certain respects almost too costly for us. We've been looking at piloting, EV with EV vehicle providers. We've got a very large fleet of two-wheelers, four-wheelers, prime haul movers, etc. So in that space, I think that the issue of cost is for the time being, still quite a challenge. However, when we talk about using digital tools, using data analytics, AI tools for predictive analysis, etc., we can actually create a lot of efficiencies when we talk about things like route planning, load optimization on our vehicles. And when we talk about overall sustainability, these are sustainable practices which are also actually cost efficient for us. So, using predictive analytics and again, one would follow the lead of global logistics companies that have done this, implemented these practices very successfully. How do you reduce the number of stops per driver? How do you minimize, the number of times you have to make delivery attempts? And this is where technology can come in to really create sustainable practices, which will also lead to efficiency. So I just wanted to put that out there in terms of the overall ecosystem. For us, efficiency and driving efficiency is critical because it's only then that we will be able to add value to our partners such as Unilever, etc. So on that front, I think our focus on efficiency is very driven on technology and data-driven tools. The other thing that I should mention, because it was referred to in the panel also, is infrastructure. And when we talk about the opportunity that Pakistan has right now, really to position itself as the logistics hub of the region, this is a very real opportunity, and we're very excited about it because there is a great deal of push towards regional connectivity, and there is a lot of need actually to invest in our physical infrastructure. So here we're going beyond the digital conversation to, we're talking about our road network, which is by and large good and improving, but also our ports, our rails, and it's only then that we will be able to create that multimodal capability for logistics companies to become efficient drivers and enablers of growth, for exporters to drive the import-export large freight volumes. And this is, and I'll take advantage of having Maheen on the panel here because I think this is where, as a private company, there is really, need for affordable capital in order to do fleet modernization so that when these regional trade routes do open up, our vehicles, our fleets should be able to manage those loads on a global compliance standards. And also, I should add, for agri-logistics, which is another area of great interest to us, but again requires a lot of infrastructure-related investment. This is sort of covering the digital and the non-digital space.
No, thank you. I think the biggest piece you picked up, and that will create the ripple effect, is if Pakistan start working towards becoming a regional connectivity hub one way or other, so the infrastructure investment and the rest of the investments will start flowing in. So, but again, it goes back how the entire ecosystem works. It wouldn't work otherwise. So Dr. Aisha, coming to you, it's the last question from Dr. Aisha, and then we will bring the mic here. So you have to help me to bring the mic there. So be ready with your question. So Dr. Aisha, again, go back to farmer, right? Heart of our economy and the most vulnerable. All the other players in that ecosystem, they are way more influential as compared to that single person who is sitting in between, right? So you have got a fertilizer supply, you got the seed supply, you got the capital provider, and there's a one person, and then we are asking to put all the risk to that one person. If things do not work, he's the only one who suffers, or she's the only one who suffers that, because the rest of the people get paid one way or other. So in that, what change you see in the ecosystem, and you have got a lot of, again, the great mind and the organization sitting here, how we can help to really make that person or that business more viable so they are pro-risk and pro-change, given the climate change, even the changing a crop cycle is not working for them. They are so scared that they don't change it, and we have seen the wheat production this year. It's just a small change which we didn't ever estimated or conducted.
So I think agriculture, it's more true, and it's actually true in everything else, that we are all connected. Agriculture value chains are connected from upstream, farmer, all the way through to you, what you're doing at Unilever as well. And so I do think we need to step away from this victim or villain mindset, that you're either a victim or you're a villain, and really start looking at people behaving rationally in response to the incentives and the structures around them. So, and the reason I say it is, one of the sort of shortcuts we have in determining which investment we absolutely don't do, if someone comes to us and says, we want to actually get rid of the RC, the evil middleman in the middle of all of this. We want to get rid of them, and our new tech platform will do everything. And actually, that's never worked. It hasn't worked in Pakistan. It hasn't worked outside Pakistan. At the end of the day, these are all components of a value chain. And I think where we need to pay attention is, are we setting the right incentives for individual actors, for companies to behave in a way that the outcomes are positive overall? And this is where, much as I'm a champion of private sector coming in, and I'm really, really constantly talking about the power of private sector to transform, we do have to step back and say there is a real role for public sector to set the rules of the game. So when we talk about policies like deregulating wheat prices, we have to think through what impact that deregulation will have on not just the farmer's likelihood of planting wheat this season, but next year. And then what happens if there's a certain global shortage? How do we handle all of this? So really thinking through and recognizing that everyone from the farmer, whether they're, you can talk about how many degrees they have or they don't. I have never been more impressed with people more than the Pakistani farmers. When you start asking them about input prices and how they do the calculation and yield per hectare, they are brilliant. So these are not victims, these are rational actors. And if the system starts suffocating them and pushing them in ways that they are just not able to sustain, we will only have ourselves to blame when they stop growing food, when they actually move from the commodities that we all rely on, from wheat that we need for our atta, to other things that maybe we'll end up exporting. But it's not because someone did something villainous, it's just because the incentives were not the right ones. And this flows through, by the way, all the way downstream to corporates. When we start saying, why are you shifting from Pakistan and setting up outside Pakistan? Why are business operations more cost-effective, by the way, now in the UAE for many companies than they are in Pakistan itself? Let's talk about the right incentives and how together we can write them, because the success doesn't exist in components. Success exists in systems. And so we really have to think about the whole. And I said agriculture is a vivid illustration, but I think it hits through the entire economy.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha, and thank you very much. Like, incentive for all the actors within the system, and the success exists in the system. So thank you very much. So anybody, question from, yeah, please, if you can bring it.
Thank you. A question to Atif Bajwa Sahab. Assalamu alaikum. Great to talk about the digitization, transformation, etc. There are two small questions I wanted to ask. First one is that as part of the Pakistan Banking Association, are you working a kind of general roadmap or standardization how banks should be moving towards transformation, or it is just each individual bank's effort? That's question number one. And question number two is that are there any sort of work or effort being made to lend to a common man, to entrepreneurs who don't have much to leverage? Because the current focus, all of us know, the banks just tend to lend to the government of Pakistan, which is risk-free. But is there any transformation to still lend, but work through the issue of this, the effort and all that stuff? Thanks.
Is it still nice working? Great question. First one, I think you can't get every bank to be going at the same speed in terms of transformation and change and investing in technology, right? So I'm just moving towards that. So one, you have the regulator driving a certain direction. And the regulator is actually quite keen to see digitization and modernization take place. So to a large extent, we are all being driven by the central bank. But within that, some people are going beyond, and some people are laggards. And as I said, that's dependent on what kind of appetite you have to invest for the future. But by and large, I think the industry is moving forward. But you also know that the digital retail banks were given licenses. Just day before yesterday, we had the second bank go live, which is Mashreq Bank. So that's also driving digitization in a different direction, which is very good. It provides competition. It provides the impetus for a lot of the laggards to come up and catch up with the rest. So there are no Pakistan Banking Association guidelines, but based on the regulators' guidelines, this association does come together to see what are the issues, what are the problems, how do we solve them, how do we move forward. And some of these regulations are very difficult also, so there is some pushback which comes from the association. But, people are at different stages of development. The second question, absolutely, I think the need of the economy is that we provide financial access to smaller companies, SMEs, agriculture. Again, there's been a lot of talk about this, but the pressure has always been on banks. Banks don't lend. But banks lend in an ecosystem where you're able to judge whether the money is going to the right person, the right purpose, and whether there will be an ability to get that money back. And that is generally driven on, one, data, two, knowledge of the customer, three, the capacity to monitor the use of that money, fourth, the ability to at least recover money through, hopefully, means supported by law and law enforcement agencies. And of course, then you depend on, finally, the judiciary to be able to make judgments and to make decisions. So this whole ecosystem is not just banking. It is dependent on a lot of other things. So if I'm ready and willing to lend, I have to have a willing borrower who is willing to put it in the right place and willing to repay. And that history, unfortunately, has not been very positive over the decades. But that's a risk that now we're collectively finding ways to overcome. The government has stepped forward and said, okay, we'll give you first loss coverage, 10%. And in smaller loans, maybe even 20%. So that's confidence for the lender to say, okay, fine, I'll take the rest if there's a loss. And then, the ecosystem is being developed. There is greater access to data about farmers, about SMEs, about, where the money is used and how. So a lot more action is now underway to lend. I mean, in fact, in the last couple of years, you'll see that the SME and agriculture numbers are quite encouraging, despite the fact that the economy really hasn't been growing. So, I mean, you also don't want to push money down somebody who who may not be able to pay it. When the interest rates were 22%, it's irresponsible for banks to lend money to people who may not be able to pay that back.
No. Thank you. I think there's one thing, Khalid Sahab, I'll add that. The first thing, in the entire ecosystem where the banks start funding these small companies and SME, the government started buying from them. So right now, if you look at the RFP,
my question was that collectively, is there any transformation which needs to be done so that, economy really moves? That's what the
question, Atif.
We now are able to lend digitally to SMEs and agricultural to farmers, right? So it's now instant lending also has started. Still small, but at least that capability has come in, and it's based on data analytics that we run quickly, and we say, okay, this is a good credit. Let's take the risk. So that's beginning to happen now. That has to scale up. And I think in the next year, 2 years, you'll see significant lending happen.
Yeah. Thank you, Atif. Jahara, you got the mic? Okay.
Thank you. I was just wondering, we're discussing inclusion, we're discussing digitization. Have you seen within your organizations or within your vendor network any resistance to any of this, and how do you tackle it? Is there a mindset shift that's required? Are you tackling it through training or through engagement with these people? Because I have heard from many organizations that this is a real problem.
So who you want to address that?
Anyone who wants to address it.
Who wants to pick it up? Okay, great. Thank you. Good.
I can share an example. I think as an entity operating around the globe, but based in the US, we've had to, I'm sure like a lot of other US-based enterprises, had to make changes based on the recent administration's updates to their legislation. And that has resulted in making some changes and updates to the mindset that we had established in our people as well. So I wouldn't say resistance, but I think it is important, obviously, if you are operating in a country and that country's laws require you to adjust to certain things, otherwise you risk not only legal trouble, but other incidents as well. It's important that the organization invests in the mindset shaping of individuals. That's one example that perhaps I will give as far as inclusion is concerned from a employee perspective.
Janara, I just want to acknowledge your point, and as a legacy business that is traditionally operated in a space which is low tech and very manual, one does see a lot of resistance, absolutely. I think people are inherently suspicious of any change in any case, but technology-based change really feels threatening because it threatens people's jobs and livelihoods, etc. So I think the way to tackle it is, of course, training, mindset shifts. One of our core values is profitability through efficiency. So really emphasizing this need for productivity and efficiency and showing people how that can be improved, and then also linking their rewards to greater efficiency and productivity, I suppose. But ultimately, it has to be driven top-down, but you need champions throughout the organization to really buy into this change. I think that's again, depending on that, we serve a number of different sectors in the market. Some are more traditional, and where we're not seeing that much of a push, but where their own business models are at stake from a similar disruption, those are the ones that are pushing for it. So I think it's pretty irregular across the space.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum ji. My name is Asma Tishan. I'm business head at Jazz. My question is with respect to telco industry. We spoke a lot about data analytics and consumer connecting with all your industries. So telcos are uniquely positioned at the intersection of connectivity, technology, and innovation. So in your point of view, what can our industry do, considering that we have huge data with analytics and can actually bridge the gap between consumer and all these industries? So how can we help?
So who you want that question to?
Anyone, because we are related. It's related to
Who
all the
wants
industries.
to pick that? I can pick. Atif, you? The telco and the banks, and I think you are the best one sitting at that junction.
You know, clearly what you said is right. Telcos do have a lot of data, and they have the ability to use that very effectively. They have the connectivity as well, much better than any other organization or sector. So what can telcos do? I think telcos are branching into different things, for instance, finance. So they're setting up microfinance institutions, which is a very effective use of that data for that segment of population, which is not being touched upon, very extensively by the banking sector or even the microfinance institutions. So you have a unique advantage that you can use that data to effectively address the needs of that segment. The other thing that you could do, and this is where data ownership becomes a really, sensitive issue. A lot of lending requires data analytics to create the credit scoring models to decide whether to lend or not. And that kind of data resides with you guys. But to share that data with the lenders, which are the banks, often becomes a problem. We've tried it in the past to create credit scoring models using data from across different sectors. Telco is one, utility companies another, and various others. And we always had this sensitivity issue that, no, this is our data, we're not going to share it. So that, as a consequence, we end up having suboptimal credit scoring models. We still use them, but they're not as good. So again, if you really want to, provide some impetus to the economy for growth, perhaps a little bit of generosity on sharing of data is required.
I think that's already discussed earlier as well, the access to data. So we have got 3 questions. If we can take those 3 questions, and then we will respond.
My question is to Mr. Bajwa first. You see, you talked about cashless banking, and you have talked about cashless banking. We are going through a process where there is intense intervention in the internet and in the signaling through the intervention of these red channels and so forth. So how do you plan to counter this? Because if you're not on the online, you cannot sort of do anything with cashless banking. So how do you counter this, and how do you propose that the government should be taken into confidence to allow this, particularly the banking industry and the data industry, to be able to sort of go through this without the kind of restriction that we are going through? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. If we can get the other question as well, and then we will come back. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sadaf Abid. I work on women's economic empowerment. So my question is that I'm curious, as leaders in your space, what do you think is one thing you will need to do differently to move the needle in your space and accelerate the pace of progress? So I will request this question's response from Amir, Maheen, Aisha, and Atif.
No, we can get one person to.
Okay, sure. Because I'm highly curious, because I think the role of leadership is very critical.
Yeah, I think we can pick up that with the conversation, but we have to pick one person here. And the last question, please.
Thank you for giving the opportunity. I'm Hanif Idris. Just a small comment that instead of cashless, we should say less cash, because US is also not cashless. So how can we become cashless? We can target less cash. My second point is that in digitalization...
You have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I have a question. I will be very brief, don't worry. Second, my question is that there are challenges in the digitalization, especially the cybersecurity and cost of transaction and the fiscal framework of Pakistan. How are you going to address that?
Who you want that question to?
Atif Saab. And my second question is, how do we measure digitalization? Our GDP is about $350 billion plus. How much of our GDP is digitalized at the moment? Because we have equal informal economy as well. So if I multiply 350 by 2, so we have a $700 million economy. And how much of it is digitalized?
Thank you. Thank you.
And my one question to Ms. Saira Awan is that...
We can only have one person, guys. We are running out of time. So, but you will have a networking opportunity later, right? So I think... I think let's start that. Who want to pick the question that what do you need to do differently? One person, not four, please. Amir, Saira. Okay, please, Amir. The question was that what you need to do differently.
Sadaf, are you asking with respect to women or generally?
Generally. Yeah.
No.
Please, Ahmed, go ahead.
Yeah. I think so. I would rather basically address it more from the lens of women, and I think so that's more pressing one, because I think that's a big challenge in the country that we have not been able to have many women at the senior level or even the mid-level level, because the problem is that it's not in education, but education level, when you look at the graduation, the graduates are actually more or less equitable. It's 50% women and 50% men. The problem happens is that when they get into an organization, they don't progress at the leadership level as much as the men do. And one of the biggest reasons is that men basically take the P&L roles, which are the profit roles, the core roles, and women at the earlier stage usually take the more support roles. And that's not a problem at the entrance level. The problem basically happens when they get into the middle management level, because then they don't have the P&L responsibility and the P&L knowledge about it. So I think so one of the leadership interventions that's required by all the organizations is to start giving the P&L responsible role to the women at the very early stage of their careers. And don't wait much enough, because if they wait, then even if you make a woman compete against a man, it would be very difficult for women to actually get those higher up roles. So I think that that's one big leadership intervention we are trying to do at our organization, is trying to give P&L specific roles to women at a very early stage of their career. And that's where one big intervention, leadership intervention is required. So that's my reflection from a leadership intervention perspective.
Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah, please, Atif, if you can pick up on a less cash and cashless and cybersecurity fiscal by here.
Subject of cashless in the cashless economy. I think your concerns are right that, we have to have a dependable, communication system to be able to pass messages to make sure digital transactions take place. And we know we are where we are in that respect. Hopefully we'll progress further, but so far there have been setbacks. Every year we have some issue or the other. But there are methodologies to make payments more simply. QR codes are one. They also require connectivity, but they're very simple, straightforward, and I don't think that those technologies really get questioned by the authorities, or they clamp down on those ones. But I think this is an evolutionary process. Of course, communication could be much better. And we are hoping that it will be, because without that, we can't move towards cashless economy. The terminology of cashless, you can call it whatever you want, but the direction is the same. It's to start, reducing the use of cash and moving towards digital channels. We had started some years ago to call it war on cash, but I guess the word war wasn't necessarily diplomatic in everyday use, so they decided to call it cashless economy. Bharal, maqsad ek hi hai. Cyber security, yes, an important concern. I think that's where a lot of the investment from all players is going. Unless you have the trust of people in digital payments and digital products, it won't fly. But it's a constant challenge, because people who want to beat the system will always be a step ahead of you. But that's the challenge, and therefore the fraud risk is something that either banks take on, or insurance companies take on, or the customer takes on him or herself, because most of the frauds happen because the customer has revealed some secure password or information to the fraudster. So there is a responsibility on that side as well. Your last point was about fiscal.
Fiscal measures.
So, how big is the digital economy as a percentage of the GDP? It depends on how you measure it. It's still very small. It's probably less than 5%. So there's a huge opportunity to grow that. And as you grow that, you hopefully will reduce the undocumented part of the economy, and your real GDP, as documented, will grow significantly.
Thank you.
I think that's
all. Thank you. Thank you, Atif. Thank you very much. So big round of applause for our panelists. So we have got Atif Bajwa, President and CEO, Bank Alfla; Maheen Rahman, Chief Executive Officer, Infrazaman, Pakistan. We have Amir Paracha, Chairman and CEO, Unilever. We have Saira Wan Malik, President, TCS Private Limited; Mujib Zahoor, Managing Director, S&P Global; and Dr. Aisha K. Khan, Regional Managing Director, Ackerman. So lovely panel and lovely audience at the same time. I know there are a lot of questions still are in the hall. I got a lot of messages as well. My apologies, Emma, you also raised the hand. But given the time we have, I think it's very difficult to really entertain every question in the panel mode, but I still encourage you will have an opportunity to network right now and share not only your concern and the questions with the panelists, but among yourselves. So thank you very much for such a lovely audience. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. Please remain seated. I'd request you to stay on the stage. You can't leave yet. Okay. Thank you, Sajid, for being our moderator, and our panelists for such a lovely, insightful conversation. Ecosystems need to be created. Ecosystems need to be strengthened. A lot of effort requires to be made at all ends, all participants. Now, to honor our speakers and express our heartfelt appreciation, I would like to request Mr. Asfar Ehsan and the council members to also join us on stage. And I'll request, where are the council members? Please join us on stage. Yeah, I think we have Amna, we have Iram. I would request okay, I would request Ms. Iram Shakir to please present a memento for Mr. Atif Bajwa. So please come forward to receive your memento. I would request Ms. Maheen Rahman to please come forward and receive your memento. Now I'll request Ms. Amna Khatib to present a memento to Mr. Amir Paracha. Thank you. At this point, I would request Mr. Yunus Daga Sahab to please come on stage. If he's still here? No? Okay. So Amna, please present a memento, Ms. Saira Awan. May I please request Mr. Hassan Ali Abdullah from the audience to please join us on stage. And present the memento to Mr. Mujib Zahoor. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And I would make one more request, Mr. Khalid Mansoor to please. Okay. Aisha Khan, Dr. Aisha Khan. Last but not the least, Mr. Sajid Aslam for having the conversation going and being a wonderful moderator for us. Thank you, Sajid. With this, we'll have a group photo of the council members and the panelists. With that, we come to the close of today's milestone event. On behalf of MAP Pakistan, we'd like to thank all of you, and let's meet outside for tea.